Hi. The next objection is I couldn't get it sold through ABC Realty or whatever. This might be, it might come to you in the form of, well, I've had the house on the market myself for 3 months and we haven't had many showings and we haven't had any offers. And anybody who's had a bad experience of some kind, especially recently, this is an objection response for that sort of thing. And I would say to one of these is called Doctors, Lawyers, and Plumbers. And I might say to you, you know, John and Mary, there's realtors are just like doctors, lawyers, and plumbers. There's good ones and bad ones. I like to think I'm one of the good ones. And I thank you for the opportunity to share a few ideas about how or why I might be able to make a difference for you in your lives and in this life event of buying or selling a home. And just kind of go on that kind of a basis. It's really important in these situations to have what we call USPs or unique selling propositions. So if you're going to tell somebody, I'm different, I'm going to make a difference for you, what are those differences? And drill down a little bit in this environment. It's really important, I should have said this up front, but it's really important to say, it sounds like you've had a bad experience. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what happened and how things got sideways for you, what you were looking for that was not there, or some things that happened that did happen and you wish they didn't? So drill down a little bit on their experience and then tailor into it elements of what you do that would address those issues directly. For example, if they were unhappy with the marketing or the follow-up or the photography or some kind of a visual representation where the house was marketed, you want to remember those things and kind of put them in the back of your mind and tailor your presentation to address those specific things. I did a lot of work with expireds and buy owners for decades and listed hundreds of them, thousands of them. And I can tell you that I would hear these, I developed a lot of empathy for the public because they would say to me things like, they never called me back, I never heard from them. They would say things to me like, I told them it was overpriced. I called the office to ask them to reduce the price. The guy never called me back. So there were definitely some service horror stories that I heard that I think if you ask and create a little empathy, it shows that you're listening, it shows that you're concerned about them, and that you might be a lot different. Maybe a little different, maybe a lot different than what they had. I can tell you, not to be redundant to Amy's responses, but two things that sellers always told me about that were expireds or buy owners or whatever, was that agents rushed them, they didn't listen, they didn't feel like their needs were addressed, and in particular, the lack of follow-up stories were remarkable. So address those issues. You can talk about a unique selling proposition. One of the best ones is to say you're a specialist in the area, or you're a specialist in a certain kind of marketing. I always told people, what I do for a living is sell homes for sellers. That was my unique selling proposition. That was what I did for a living. There were agents that worked with me on a cooperative basis that worked primarily with buyers, but my job was to get homes sold. That's an example of a unique selling proposition. If I was an agent, I'd be seriously into drones, okay? Drones are cool, they're fun. And you got all these great shots and stuff and the wow factor, the visual factor in those is remarkable. I would sell the services of my highly qualified photographer. The internet, 30 years ago, people looked at a 1 inch wide and high black and white photo of a home. Today, and that was just a way to make sure that the buyer knew of the house. Today, that has evolved to a point where now the visual presentation of that home is the first showing. It's no longer a marketing piece. It is the first showing. We've taken to calling those virtual showings. And that's how people decide whether or not they want to come into a home and see it. So I would talk a lot about photography. I'd talk a lot about brochure development and deployment. The other thing I would say, if you're talking to an expired or a buy owner or somebody who's had some experience in the marketplace that wasn't positive, I'd say there's only two reasons. This is called 2 reasons why. There's only 2 reasons why a home won't sell, either price or marketing. If you're talking to an expired on the phone or a FSBO, I'd like an opportunity to do a couple of things for you. Do a detailed pricing analysis and report called a competitive market analysis. And I'd also like to review what marketing has been done to get your home sold. And you can decide based on the review of those things and then a little bit of presentation on my part in terms of a marketing proposal, whether or not I really am different, whether or not and most importantly, whether or not I can make a difference in your life and get you where you want to go in this world. But I like to think that I stand up well under comparison. I hope you do too. But if nothing else, we can part as friends. And I'm a real estate agent. And as a real estate agent, I need all the friends I can get. So those are some ideas on talking to somebody who's had a bad experience, whether it be relatively recent or long ago, with a real estate agent. And tell them, I used to tell them, I want to take you from, I don't really like these guys, to bragging about your experience and your interaction with a real estate professional. I want you to become a raving fan of what we do for a living and what I did for you personally. And I hope that we can get there.